Hello and welcome to the Nordic Takedown podcast. We are in episode 29, which means we have done 29 consecutive weeks of this podcast. So welcome everybody. My name is Jason, Captain Kirk, also known as Fun Daddy to some. I still can't believe that stuck. And I'm actually here joined today for this amazing episode by two of our often returning guests, which is great. So Mattias is back. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm still alive. I'm here.
You're still alive, just about.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. So very good to hear your voice, and I'm pretty sure our listeners will be feeling the same thing. And we also had the return of the Viktor, who was here last week and introduced himself and is back again, which we're all very, very happy that you are.
Happy to be here.
How are you? How are you both? Viktor, how are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah. Have you had a good week?
I have.
Yeah. Have you recovered from your intro to Nordic Takedown fame?
Oh, of course, yeah. No, it's been... the groupies are the worst.
I know, right? I know. Yeah.
Can't leave the building anymore.
Nah.
I know. I just wish they hadn't got hold of my address.
Yeah,
anyway. Mattias, was it you know where I live? Was it you that gave that out?
Hey, I'm not confirming or denying anything, all right?
Mattias, yeah, how are you also, Mattias?
I'm doing pretty good.
I've been away for a few weeks.
Yeah, no, I've been it's been a lot going on in my life, but I am slightly more stable now. I'm a bit sick still, but I am stable. So hey, such is life.
Yeah. I mean, stableness is better than having a cold. So that's always good. So how have you guys been involved in? Do you know, before we go into this, I should probably say what we're talking about this week, so that people don't instantly turn off their podcast, click next to the next other Star Wars podcast that they might be want to listen to. So to keep people listening to this one, we are going to be focusing on the art of judging.
The
art of judging. And so this is going to be mainly a conversation / loose interview with Mattias, who was the head judge in Malmö for the SWU Open at Malmö Game Week, and your experiences through that, stuff that came up, how that went for you. And then we want to kind of move into talking about how the judge program is going, because I'm guessing you're in the judge program, and you've taken the level 0 test, and obviously we can't talk about that. We can't talk about what's in the test, but we can talk about that there is.
We can talk around it. We can't talk about specific questions because they only have one set of questions, and that would kind of defeat the point. But...
Exactly. And so we're going to be talking through that, and Viktor is going to be also asking genuine questions that he would like to know as well. So this is going to be quite interesting episode. So this is what you have to look forward to. However, what I would like to know is, how have you been engaging in Star Wars Unlimited this week? Let's go with Viktor.
Yeah, we had our first store showdown for this set at Dragon's Lair in Stockholm this past weekend.
Nice, yeah.
So yeah, we had that, and we had a stream for it. It was we might actually get our hands on that stream and do some commentary for it eventually.
Yeah. No, we there is plans in place to be able to get that onto our thing, do some commentary and put that onto our channel as well. We are focusing on our Malmö games as well. So actually, one of the reasons that Adam and Jonah are not involved tonight is that, well, three's a crowd, four's a crowd, three's company, four's a crowd. I mean, more than four people or more on a podcast is crazy. But also they're putting their efforts into doing some of the commentary for the day 1 games. And so we're going to be releasing those, and then we're going to be releasing day 2 games that myself and Viktor commentated on, or Viktor commentated on and I commentated on what Viktor said. If you watch it, you'll understand. And then we're going to be going into some of the store showdown stuff as well, so hopefully we'll get more footage of stuff that happens as well, or we can actually put that onto a YouTube channel. What happened then in the store showdown? Who won? How did you do? Who did you play?
So the winner was Adrian, and he played a wacky Boba Yellow deck. Well, it wasn't all that wacky, but it was different. It was a different flavor of yellow Boba, and it was really neat. And runner-up was Alexander Lutz, who played a completely bonkers Thrawn deck.
Oh,
I've seen that deck. It looks great.
It's just bonkers, and he did so well. And I talked to Alexander just before the showdown, and he was like, "Oh, this is so great with this mid-tier level kind of competition where it's not all about winning; it's just about having fun, and you don't feel that pressure to bring your best deck, your most competitive meta deck. You can bring something fun that you've been working on." And he's been twinkling with this deck for a while, I think, and then he just crushed it at the game. He went undefeated up until it was just a Swiss kind of tournament, and he went undefeated all the way to the final. And it was just a blast to see him go at it with that deck.
That's great.
It was so great. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing that footage. I've been tweaking. I think I tweaked with Thrawn. That was one of the first decks I tried to put together, and it just wasn't hitting it. So I'm interested in that. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Who did you play with?
I was so angry with myself for not bringing Sabine to Malmö. So I felt I had to just try my hands at Sabine at a tournament again. I haven't played her at a tournament in a while. And that's been my go-to deck since set one. So I felt I ought to feel her out, and I think I did all right with her. I might be tweaking that deck for a bit more and try to get it tournament ready for real. I did all right. I went 3-2, so
that's all right. That's good. That's a good record. Was it Sabine ECL?
Yeah. It's a standard deck, but you need to tweak it to your own play style. I'll get at it.
Nice.
How many players were you?
About 30. I think we were 29
really
in the end, because we had I think we had a couple of late drops.
Yeah,
so it was a decent turnout, and
that's a very good turnout. Actually,
great fun. It's a like the crowd. The meta in Stockholm is just a really friendly and fun bunch of people. It's really nice showing up at the stores and playing. It's just a very familiar feeling. I love it.
Yeah. That sounds interesting. I really do want to come and visit one of your events up there. I'm trying to work out if my company can send me to one of our customers in Stockholm for a customer visit as well. So I'm trying, and then I can plan that around a Monday or a Wednesday or whenever you do your play evenings.
See if you can do something that's worth writing about, and I can jump in the car and report on it as well.
There we go. The paper in middle of Sweden needs to know about the stuff happening in Stockholm.
Exactly.
Go for the national news on the local level. So have you got any more store showdowns lined up?
Yeah, well, there's one this weekend. I can't go, unfortunately, because I have my niece is the female version. My niece is turning 3, and I have to show up for that.
Yeah.
So,
That makes
What
sense,
is it with so many birthdays around this time of year? Like
Right.
I had like my 3-year-old turned 3.
Long and
Last
dark winter nights,
Yeah,
and then
it's kind of
9 months later,
Yeah.
something turns out.
That is a good point. It's only 9 months after New Year's, as well. So that's another area. Anyway, moving on from that one. Matthias, how's your week of Star Wars been?
It's been fairly calm. I've been the last 2 weeks I've been doing the store weekly plays. So last week was constructed. So I brought I haven't really been sure what to play this season. I've been really jumping back and forth. I really like Boba, but I don't want to play more Boba, and I tried to do some Han Blue, and I was like, I'm not really feeling that, and then I jumped back to Boba Green, while testing and stuff. But eventually I decided to run with a Han 2 Green ECL. Just realistically a worse Sabine, I think. But it's a very fun deck, and it feels like it can do a lot of stuff while not being overly competitive when ran at a store level event. And still, it was an interesting experience. And I went 3-1. We played 4 rounds. Yeah, 3-1.
Nice. Yeah.
So pretty good. I was happy with the result.
We have a league going in
Yeah.
Manatorch as well. So you've been doing pretty well there.
Well, I mean, we do the system there is basically you get to miss two times, so they deduct the two worst results you have. And I missed the two first events because of Malmö. I am running it in raw, but went 4-1 during the draft the week before. I went 3-1 this event, so I think so far I'm doing all right. We'll see how that goes.
That's pretty good. So I missed two, so I've still got a chance. Actually, the one that I was there, I went 0 for 5, so maybe I'm not doing so well.
Hey.
But that was my tough draft experience, which we covered a few weeks ago. That did not go well.
Yeah.
Apparently, you cannot play 3 villainy cards in a heroic deck.
You can
and do well. Well, you can officially, but you cannot do that and win.
The trick is to put them as resources immediately.
That is true. That is true. They were, however, Kylo Ren and Rancors, and so I had to have plans for them because I had nothing else.
Yeah.
Moving on. My week. I don't think I've played any Star Wars actually in the last week. I have had a lot of work going on. I've had family birthdays. We've been going left, right, and centre, going around. I have sorted my cards out though. So I have put my cards into binders. I've got my play sets going there. So I have done that, and that was a lot of fun. Just admiring some of the really good artwork. Trying to find out. I have cards everywhere. And so actually getting them into the same place is pretty cool. So my week of Star Wars is not as interesting as yours. I have been tweaking my Kira Red deck.
Nice.
I'll have to say. Actually, I lie. I did play a game last week. with Kira Red, and I lost with it, and so I need to do some more tweaking. But it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Being able to do some stuff. However, judging. That's my segue. Judging, yeah. Mattias, you were asked to be head judge Malmö Game Week at the SWU Open, and had you ever done something like that before?
I had never head judged before. No, I've judged events like smaller events. I've judged slightly bigger stuff, but nothing immense. I've never been responsible for the judging team in any way. So that part was a new experience for me. I think it went fairly well. It was it was interesting going into it, not really sure what to expect. New game, so there wasn't really a lot of resources to look at. I went, prepared a lot for doing this by just like looking at how people judge and prepared to judge in Flesh and Blood and Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh, just going over stuff like that to see like how do you handle an event of this size, because I didn't have an idea. I did have a bit of a salvation in the other main judge, really, Alexander, having been judging for years and years and years on the Magic scene, having been head judge on a lot of things as well. So he had a lot of good, nice tips to help me out. And I think it worked out pretty well, all things considered.
No, I think it very much did. And one of the interesting things that we did is that this wasn't an official tournament. This wasn't arranged by Asmodee. However, they were supporting it in the way with prize support, and we had the tablecloths there, and Asmodee were there and their representatives were there, and they from what it looked like, they were going around taking pictures. They thought it was a really good event, but it wasn't an official event. But you run it as if it was an official event.
Yeah, so obviously a thing we wanted to accomplish was to be do it again, but maybe doing so in an official capacity in future years was one of the goals of the tournament organizer. So we decided to, for the most part, run everything by the book, run everything the way the policy documents and the master event documents, everything says. Make sure not to bring out any too much outside influence into it, and just run it as a Star Wars event as best as we could using competitive rulings.
Yeah. I think that was really good though, because then it meant that we were under those what's the word I'm trying to think of? We were under that official tournament feeling, I guess. The situation to prepare us for when we actually were going into the official tournament areas, when we have the OPs, the PQs coming up. Coming up, I really can't think this evening. The PQ's coming up. You have regional qualifiers, the Galactic Championship next year. Where else would we get that experience, especially with this game? Yes, people have had time with other games at this level, but this game at a official level. So that was appreciative.
Nice.
I think by a lot of people, and despite myself getting a tardiness call because I was running backwards and forwards and I didn't tell a judge, which I should have done. I was like, oh wow, yeah, this really is something really small that you would get away with at things if you just need to go to the toilet. If you don't tell the right person, if you don't tell a judge that you're doing that, you get a tardiness penalty.
Yeah, and
simple.
That's part of the experience, right? Like if there's 100 or something players, you can't just disappear and expect people to not react. And it was a bit weird for us because obviously there hasn't been any PQs yet, which means there aren't a lot of resources for us to use to determine how to run things. But it also means that FFG hasn't really adapted the rules to reality yet. So there was a lot of policy things that just doesn't quite make sense when you're playing the game, and made the situation harder for us as judges. But I've seen that in the judge Discord, the Jonah, who is not our Jonah, a different Jonah. I don't remember his last name right now, but the man running the judge program has basically been calling out we're looking at the policy documents, and we will be looking at it. So the Cascade Games, who run the judge program, has been taking a very proactive role in adapting the rules as written.
And how else would they know whether it works or doesn't unless they get the feedback like this of what does or doesn't work in reality? So that's really good.
Absolutely.
So I mean, one of the most interesting things with actually getting to this experience was that there's so many rules that aren't concerning the actual gameplay, but all the things around the gameplay, like the tardiness thing you were talking about, if you're late or so on, but also sanctions that are outside of the game, like if you do misplace, or if you somehow through negligence or intentionally foul things up, you can get warnings, and you can get penalties that run outside of the actual match. Could you speak a little bit talk to some of the kinds of sanctions that are in place for these kinds of level of tournaments?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a part where Star Wars Unlimited does things a bit differently from a lot of games. Most card games have things like game losses, match losses, disqualifications, and stuff like that. And that exists in Star Wars Unlimited too. But that exists alongside a points system, where we have the warnings, as you mentioned. So basically, it's a system where if you get 10 points, you will be disqualified. A head judge will be called, and you will be disqualified. You get a point for making a rules mistake of some sort, basically. If you call a judge and you ask a question and it's just like, this is how it works, then we move on. But if you do something that forces us to step in and change the game state, you will most likely be getting a point of some sort. And you can get 4 levels of warnings, basically. So you can get a warning penalty, which will give you 1 point. You can get a escalated penalty, I believe it's called. It's 2 points. You can get a severe penalty, which is 4 points. And you can get extreme penalty, I'm not sure, which is 8 points.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And 1 point and 2 points are the most common ones, obviously. 1 point could be just a small thing that needs to be fixed, I don't know, you forgot to pay your resource for a thing. You do everything, and then you just call me just tap the resources and move on, right? But if you might get 2 points if it takes a little bit of time for us to figure out, but under 5 minutes essentially to figure out a good solution. If we need to take 5 minutes or more to fix a problem, we will essentially declare that this is a game loss, that the game state cannot be reverted enough, or we can't move on from this without giving someone a significant advantage. So this is a game loss to the relevant party. That will give you 4 points as well. And then you start moving in more into the policy part, where it's if you're behaving in a way that's not acceptable, you might get 4 or 8 points, right? If you're calling people slurs, that's probably a disqualification immediately. But if you're being in a way, if you're being disruptive in a way, that might be 4 or 8 points. Or if you're behaving negatively in any way, you might also get points if you smell really bad, or if you haven't taken care of your hygiene. That's also part of it. Tardiness is usually, I believe, 1 point to begin with. And then if you take too long, you might get a game loss and some extra points. If you after 5 minutes, I think 5 or 10 minutes. But that's the point where you start getting into the part where the judge really needs to start doing his job and not just looking at a sheet and looking, well, this says that point, here you have this. Yeah.
So the first kind of things you talked about, the game state things, when they're fairly easily fixed. So the rules claim says that both players are responsible for the game state. So if I, let's say, forget to take off some damage from my base when I attack with a restore unit, that would, and we realize a bit later and we have to fix it, that would be a point for me. Would it be a point for my opponent as well?
So that's one of the parts where, at the moment, the policy is a bit fuzzy. I believe the rules state that both players are responsible, as you say, and but the policy document doesn't really go into when do we act as judges on this. Cascade Games has released a further document for now, where they basically also mentioned that an opponent is not allowed to intentionally not announce something happening or something like that. So in that sense, both players are responsible for, and you have to tell your opponent if they should have collected a bounty, for example. But they aren't quite clear on how to deal with someone missing that. There's been a lot of discussion on the judge Discord about that. So I think it'd be a case by case, and also a bit of the judge evaluating, is it reasonable to think that the person forgetting in this situation would have gained something and did so intentionally? Did they try to do something? And if they did that, if it's something very clear, that could move up to even to cheating. But otherwise, it would probably just be hey, have a warning. Remember to declare your game states. If you're unclear, call a judge, basically. Because a warning will often not result in much. A warning, it's a point, but it's a reminder to the player to keep the eyes open, basically.
But in times like that, if both players agree that, oh, yeah, I forgot to put a damage on there, you both agree, yes, we just put another damage on there, and both players are happy, then you just move on with the game, I guess. It's only when one person isn't happy, isn't satisfied, that actually maybe the other person has gained something, or that was information they didn't have that would have changed their decision-making in a turn, that it becomes a problem. Is that correct? Or...
Well, obviously it becomes a problem if it changes decision making in any way, but generally, if you see something that is a way that it shouldn't be, call a judge. Because it's easier, it's very easy to be oh, but this we'll just resolve this real quick and it will be done. The problem is that doesn't help us understand what's going on in the tournament as a whole, because the reason we give these warnings isn't to get a gotcha moment on you, haha, you up. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. You got to bleep that out.
That's fine. R2 can help me later.
R2 can help you later. But you can't just we're not trying to get you, right? We're not trying to screw you up in any way. We're just trying to keep everyone having fun and keep the game state clear for everyone and fair. When someone calls for a warning or gets a warning, that means we have that noted down in our system. If they then get another warning and another warning, we'll see a pattern. And that will help us see if maybe this is someone we need to keep an eye on. Maybe there is, because maybe they missed a trigger, or maybe they intentionally missed a trigger. Who knows? So we never assume guilt in that sense when we give someone a point. If we see something very blatant that should be cheating, we will always investigate. But these warnings are a very good way for us to see if someone is repeatedly making infractions. And not calling a judge then and just fixing it yourself will maybe cause problems in the future where we would have seen something happen because we had an eye on them, but it went through because we didn't.
Yeah. So basically, don't be ashamed to call the judge if you just need to know where to go. Do you have any situations or interesting calls that you had to make in the tournament where you maybe didn't? It's the first time you saw a call like that. You didn't necessarily think that you would see, or just an interesting game situation or situation that you did. Like any anecdotes that came out of those times. It was okay, so that was interesting. Do you have any of those that happened during the day?
Well, we didn't have a massive amount of rule calls that were particularly complex or interesting. A lot of the rules calls were actually just basic gameplay questions that you might expect not to show up at a competitive level event. So we had someone asking if I activate Heroic Resolve, which is the upgrade that you can sacrifice to attack with a unit, and deal extra damage on that attack. He asked, does this mean I need to use another action next turn to attack? Which, no, it doesn't. You get the attack because it says attack with this unit. There was a lot of that kind of questions, which is fair. This was a lot of people's first competitive level event. A lot of people were there having fun.
Yes.
There was a generally, somewhere along the midline of the tables after round 3 or 4, there was a very different attitude towards the game, depending on which side of the half of the tables you were at. One place was very competitive, the other place was very casual, just having fun, which is really good. It's nice that people were adapting. It was we're here, we're having fun, let's play the game and enjoy ourselves. Most of the times where we had to properly step in was actually related to deck lists.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I was not expecting at all. And part of this, admittedly, is that we don't have official systems yet. Now we do. We didn't then, but now we have Melee where you can submit deck lists. We had to go have people mail us their deck lists, and what that meant was that people maybe didn't look through their deck lists properly before sending them in. So we had one example of someone who just sent in the first page of their 2-page deck list. This meant that 4 cards in their sideboard was missing from the deck list. And we saw that they had 10 cards in the sideboard because it said sideboard 10, but we could only see 6 of them. And that means that, well, you're not allowed to play with these 4 cards in your deck anymore, which means that your deck did not match your deck list, which means we, according to how the rules are written, have to give a game loss and give points for that, which didn't feel nice at all because obviously it was a mistake. But at the same time, at a competitive level event, you are expected to have checked these things. You are expected to know what you've sent in. You're expected to be at the top of your game at all times, including during preparation. So but that one felt really bad in the stomach, but it's the rules, we're following them.
It's an official level tournament you were going for, and this is what we'll be up against.
Exactly. Yes. And we had another situation where someone had put in the wrong card, and he actually came up to us and told us. And he managed to fix the problem himself, but we still needed, since he had played a game with it, we still had to give him a match loss for that one. But it was very nice of him to actually come up, and that's what you're supposed to be doing, because if you find a mistake that you've been doing, especially with your deck, and you don't tell anyone, you just keep going with it, or you fix it and someone sees you fix it and they're like, what are you doing, why are you switching cards?
It's going to be a disqualification.
Yeah, then it becomes cheating, because then it's intentional. So always make sure you actually tell someone if you screw up. It's better to do so now than be found out later.
Yeah, for sure. It's better with a quick slap on the wrist than say, actually, now you have to go home.
Yeah.
Now, for as far as anecdotes go, you didn't have that many complex rule calls, but did you have any absolutely buffoonish ones?
You mean like a rules cause like can I attack with a unit if it's not exhausted or something?
Yeah,
like that,
for instance.
Well, our players listen to the pods. I don't want to call someone out and call them buffoonish. But like the one I mentioned there with the rogue resolve was probably one of the ones with like, what? How did? Yes. Like it says attack with this unit on the card. That was probably the one that really made me question things a lot more. But we also had a. None of them were that buffoonish. A lot of the rule calls we got were just quick questions that I didn't put to mind, to be completely honest, because I was very stressed at the time. So I was like, I answered the question, moved on. We did have a situation where that isn't buffoonish, but it was very interesting. Someone was playing a card from Smuggle. What card it was is not relevant. They played the card out onto the field. They paid for it, as you should. Passed their turn. And the phase ended. He drew up his cards and realized he had not put down a replacement resource.
Yeah, I've done that in local play.
Yeah, and we had a lot of things like that with Smuggle, where it's just like Smuggle is a really bad mechanic for maintaining game state because it's trying to do so many things at the same time.
Yes.
Because you are declaring your intent, you show the card, you pay the resources, partially using the card, which gets a bit confusing for people.
Yes.
You put the card into play, and then you put another card from the top of your deck, and then you resolve the like. There's a lot of stuff happening at the same time from 4 different zones, right? You're doing stuff in your resources, you're doing stuff on the table, in the deck, and sometimes like in your hand if you're drawing cards or something. So there's a lot of stuff happening there.
How was that resolved? That one.
So
how do you resolve that one? Because I've been in that situation before, and the way we resolved it in local play was, okay, I promise you that this card should have been here because this was the top card that I picked up, and they accepted that, but it was local play.
Yeah, exactly.
In tournament play, that would be different.
Yeah, and in tournament play, we have this is one of the parts where the policy documents are kind of a problem, because the policy documents essentially allow us to do a couple of different things as judges. If we're going to maintain ourselves within that document, we can rewind, we can play on, basically keep going as we were. We can resolve now, which is fix the problem as it is, like change the thing, and that's really where we're at. And we can't really rewind here because we can't put the cards back on top of the deck. That doesn't work. We can't play on because he's lost a resource, and we can't resolve now because we don't know we can't really figure out what that would mean. So what we wound up doing was playing it as a additional extra card draw, which there are rules for, which essentially say if you know what card you've drawn extra, you simply put that on the bottom of the deck. If you don't know what card was drawn extra, you show your opponent your hand, they pick a card and remove it from play entirely. Which is very, very bad. It's a very, very strong punishment for drawing an extra card. And again, this is something that is now being reworked, according to Jonah in the Discord.
I think there's a reason for that really strong punishment for drawing an extra card.
Yes.
Because back in Conquest, which was an FFG game, we had a champion, essentially a US champion from the national scene, that got disqualified and banned from FFG games for consequently drawing 3 cards. That game as well had 2 card draw every turn, and he every turn drew 3 cards. And there was this big, huge scandal about it because it was on camera, and all the forums went absolutely bananas. So it was really hilarious, actually, but because he tried to defend himself in the worst possible way on the forums, and it was just bonkers. Yeah. So I think a lot of the staff at FFG have some experience with that, and they
absolutely
probably have like strong feelings on the topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a very good reason to punish that kind of stuff when it's serious. But in this situation, what we did, we ran it the way it was written. So I wasn't the one taking the call. I was being that was my floor judge, and he came to me asking what to do. So I wasn't there looking at it. But what we did was we played it as a extra drawn card. We removed a card from play, and then we took the top card of the deck and put down as a resource as a resolve now. So we basically combined two systems into one. What I would have done today, like after having the experience, might have been to do the same thing, but just take the removed resource as the removed card as a resource instead. Just put that as into the resource. The opponent essentially gets to choose which card you get to resource, since neither player could identify what was drawn.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's a very heavy punishment to show your opponent your hand.
Yeah.
So
yes.
It's a bit awkward, but there isn't really a proper solution aside from that.
I mean, that effect is on on most of the really good cards in the game, to be able to show the card.
Yeah, exactly.
Show your hand.
So it's one of those decisions that's hard to make as well. But we felt like you need to follow, like, since we were running it as a competitive level event, we wanted to keep within the policy rules. So we decided that was the best way forward. That's definitely one of those calls that we've been discussing afterwards as well, like how would we resolve it differently. But I know that's, as you said, you've done that in local play. We've seen a lot of people in the Judge Discord having had similar experiences, and I think they are looking at a way to deal with that more officially. Because
but and even just like, if you're playing Shadows of the Galaxy, because like I saw a tweet today from Tyler Parrott, one of the designers, saying that actually Smuggle and one of the other Shadows of the Galaxy things, I can't remember what it is now, will not be in the next set at all. There will be no Smuggle cards in the next set, and there will be no bounty in the next set. Thank you.
As far as I know, those two mechanics won't be revisited, at least for a while.
Exactly, yeah. No. With the comments that came afterwards as well, it's actually, only if it really fits the set will it actually be revisited. So depending on how popular the next set is, we might not see that as often. But actually going over those things, actually, reveal the card. It's almost like, I kind of, in that situation, I kind of like pay for the card. Like say, I'm going to smuggle something, pay the cost, and then reveal the card as I'm doing it. I know it's officially the wrong order, but then I know in my mind I have tapped my resource.
And that kind of stuff won't be a problem. Like if you tap and then reveal, no one cares.
Definitely. But it's that whole thing, and I have punished myself before. I actually did it on that weekend as well. Is actually I forgot to. I revealed the card and I paid for it with other cards, and I realised afterwards I was like, okay, that's my mistake.
Yeah,
because you can tap anything.
So. You have been talking a little bit about it already, mentioning the judging program Discord and the program itself. Could you speak a little bit about what kind of resources are you provided at this point, and what have you gone through to get there?
Yeah, so the judge program obviously is still in its infancy, as the note on the webpage so beautifully states. This battle station, website isn't fully operational yet. Updates coming regularly. But we, what we've gone essentially was I believe it was 6 lessons to take before we could take a judge apprentice exam, which those 6 lessons basically goes through not necessarily how to be a good judge, but understanding the game well enough to help others play the game, and how to be a good teacher and stuff like that. That's been the main focus there. It was followed by an exam, which was 20 questions regarding mainly game mechanics, only game mechanics, I believe. Yeah, there was no policy questions in that document.
No, it's just...
So game mechanics, we can't discuss the questions because there's only one set of them, and so you're only allowed to take the test once. But essentially, you needed to have more. Was it 80% correct? I think.
No, 80%. So you could have 16.
Yeah, 16 was a pass.
Was a pass. Anything less was a fail. And if you fail, you have to wait until they can come up with more questions.
Yeah. And so what passing that test gives you is, at the moment, a note on the webpage saying you are a judge apprentice, and access to one of the chats in the Discord, which is just currently being used for people saying, "Hey, I did it," basically. But also the guy that actually runs the system is a bit more active, just chatting with people there and answering questions and stuff. Other than that, we have the actual judge Discord, which is a very well organized Discord for being so early. It has both live call chats where people can ask questions if they're in the middle of a tournament and just don't know what to do, and people can help them out. There's policy discussions, there's software discussion, there's just a chat for people to discuss judging as a whole. All the resources are gathered in one place, which is very nice, stuff like that. And they've started working on the level 1.
Yeah, I saw they put the first stream out, the first video for the level 1, yeah.
And level 1 is where you're going to be an actual judge, right? The apprentice is where you know the rules, you're there to be able to help people, and that's the only thing you're allowed to do currently. Well, that's the only level you can make it to currently.
Yeah.
They release new lessons for the level 1 judge program every Monday and Thursday, which is basically a video with them going through a certain topic and then just text about it as well, so you can choose how to consume said media. And then they have a discussion for each episode on the Discord as well. And the way they've been going through level 1 is basically first they did a philosophical episode about like this is what it means to be a judge, essentially, and then they have been doing the episodes through 2 to 11 will be just going through the comprehensive rulebook part by part. So every section gets its own episode, except for section 1, which got 2 episodes. We're currently on episode 5. By the time the episode is released, we will be on episode 6, which will be zones, apparently.
Yes.
But then they're also going to be going through an overview of the tournament regulations, which is basically the what's the structure around a tournament, and then they're going to be going through the master event documents, which is more the judge document stuff. How do you make, like, what are the rules regulating stuff, like I mentioned, like the point system, or like when do you give a game loss, when do you give this, when do you give that, how do you approach stuff, whose responsibility is it to disqualify someone or ask someone to leave a venue, stuff like that. Then they're going to be going through how to take a judge call, like the steps you can take there, like how you approach someone calling judge, this is what's happening, help. They will be looking a bit into the event software, how to run an event, and giving and receiving feedback. So that's going to be the level 1 stuff before we can take the test.
Very nice, yeah. Do you feel that you would, already from what you've seen by the first 5 levels and the level 0 stuff and the everything you've had there so far, that in the last couple of weeks since there, that would have helped you prepare more if you would have had this before this Malmö event? Or
it's the first 5 episodes, not the first 5 levels. We're still on level 1.
First five
but
episodes,
just for
course,
the but the actual lessons, no. I feel like we're still very firmly in I understand this territory.
Yes.
I have a firm enough grasp of the rules and how cards work and how the game works. That's not really been the things that helping. And I honestly don't think that the judging aspects, like the judge exams, are necessary for me to understand the game, but I think they're very good for a lot of people because we're seeing a lot of the questions that I had when I started out with like reading the rules are popping up in the chats and so forth, and there's a lot of very interesting things about like the minutia of rules that's popping up. So that's very interesting to see, but so I don't think that's what I needed.
They're kind of taking you on the journey that you've been on in preparing to be head judge. They're kind of going on the similar journey.
Yeah, they're more structured. So if I started when I started being interested in just like figuring out the rules properly, if I had this, maybe it would have been easier. But preparing for Malmö, what I would have needed was Melee to be an official resource, and maybe some guides, because I've spent so much time learning Melee and how to fix things when they go wrong, which I've actually had the pleasure of helping a couple of people in the Judge Discord with what I've learned, so at least there's that.
Yeah. I mean, you're now in this position where you've been there, and you can then mentor and help other people get to that same place as well.
Yeah.
So you've just put in the hard work and to support other people, which is, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be really grateful for.
Hopefully, yeah. I'm telling myself that for the amount of hours I spent on it.
How hopeful are you of the future of Melee? Do you think that they will get the software to a point where we are going to be really happy with it, or is it going to be a bit of a struggle?
A bit of column A, a bit of column B, but I know Lorcana players don't like the system, and it's also the official Lorcana system. But for me, having used it, the biggest problem the system has is it doesn't feel very intuitive. But once you've actually gotten to know the system, like, you can do so much with it. You have access to basically every metric in the entire structure, and you can do whatever you want with those metrics. You can go back and fix something that went wrong 4 rounds ago. You can get pairings up by name or by table. You can print out basically whatever you can think of wanting to print out from a software like this. You can publish digitally so people can access in their phones, both for standings and matches. You can choose whether or not to let people see the matches at the same time as you, or having to press a button so you can prepare something if you need to. You can put people onto a certain table and have them always be at that table if they have problems walking or whatever it could be.
Disability of some sort.
Yeah, something like that. Then there's so many actual very useful tools, and once they've adapted to like the point system, which I haven't checked if they have yet, or like having places to input that, I think they will have a very good resource for judges.
That's good.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what the program is going to be quite all right. It's just the level of intuitiveness, if you can say that as a word, intuitivity, that's going to make people, judges as well as players that aren't familiar with it, struggle a little bit.
Yeah, and just like getting to know the system takes a lot of time, and that's time most people won't be putting into learning a matchmaking system, essentially. So that's the big problem there.
Well, hopefully that will be some things, the feedback that they get,
absolutely.
and maybe you've had from other games as well. But it still seems like, it's not perfect, but it's still the best.
It's not tech, and if it's not tech, I'm happy. Tech was a nightmare. Sorry, FFG, but it was a nightmare.
Yeah. We love you, but yeah.
We
love you. We will never forget what you did.
Yeah.
No, but it sounds like it's actually working pretty properly. It's just that it's a little bit hard to navigate. But once you get over that threshold, it's going to perform to the standard you want it to.
Yeah. I have also noticed them having some server issues when it comes to like players connecting with their phones and stuff like that. And I've had players tell me that they made an account and then immediately had to switch login and stuff like that. So that kind of practical thing needs to be fixed.
Yeah. I could not get the standings up via my account.
To be fair, I think that was my fault.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that because I thought I had put publish standings immediately up, but apparently they were hidden, and I didn't realize until the end.
Okay, fair enough. Because I was trying to find them and find matchups and stuff like that, and I was just trying to show them and everything, and I thought that was me, because my account is still trying to authenticate me, and I've authenticated 5 times. But then that's me. That's my problem. But if that's the case as well. But there is that other thing that you can, when set up right, you can have a feed for streamers and like a media admin or media privileges that you can have, so that coming from the streaming point of view, that's a really good thing, so that we still get the information to let people at home know what's going on, which was very good.
And you can put in basically as many accounts as you want, a staff of different sorts, and they have presets for like a judge has access to these things, head judge has access to these things, media to these, scorekeeper to these, etc. But you can also go in and like, this guy should also have access to this one very specific tab and stuff like that. So you can do a lot with it, but
that's good. That's good. We've just got to figure it out.
Yeah, it's sort of like using a computer, like a Windows 95. Like they did the job. But if you compare it to the computers today, people will be like, "What am I doing? Why do I need to press all these buttons? What's going on?"
I know people today who would still prefer Windows 95.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, card players actually learn how to navigate Octagon back in the day, so we will learn how to navigate this stuff as well. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, like the intelligence level of a lot of card players is pretty high anyway, because that's why we like these card games, because it challenges us and it challenges the strategy.
Low in your own horn there.
I'm not putting myself in that group whatsoever. I'm talking about some of the people that I play that have the intelligence level higher than me, which is why I don't get to the top fours that often. So I'm not putting myself in that group whatsoever. However, when I do get there, I will be putting myself in there. Anyway, moving on.
But as a note as well on the judge system as it is right now, obviously it's still being developed, so we don't really know what it will give us. But I think they have the skeleton of a very solid structure that will be both easy for judges to develop and learn and figure out where they are at and what they need to learn more about. But also for tournament organizers to find judges when they start doing that, because they have the ability to have all these different levels where you can go, okay, well, we're running this kind of tournament, we need a level 2 to run as head judge, and we need this many level 1s. Please give us this. And it's worth noting as well that to become a level 1 judge, as opposed to a apprentice, it's not just enough to get everything right. You also need to have experience in the field, which you get at your friendly local gaming store. And then that said store has to email Cascade and tell them that you've actually been doing that and you did a good job, and they would recommend you to be a judge.
Yeah,
that's a really good step to have there.
You need to be endorsed by a shop to.
You can't just be like good at the rules and then turn out to be a bit of a not very nice person on the field. You actually have to be recommended. Like, this guy knows what he's doing, because as a judge, you're an ambassador for the game.
And it's proof outside of this from other people that you are experienced and an experienced person in this game, and you are someone that can be trusted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, and I mean, I think that's really clever, because you really want to avoid, even for just some shop somewhere, to end up in that stereotypical Magic the Gathering sort of bad personality, bad mood, a comic book guy in Simpsons kind of vibe. and you want to avoid that stereotypical image, because Magic didn't deserve that. No. Almost no Magic players ever behaved the way people thought they did, but there were small percentages that popped up and confirmed the stereotype, and especially on like judging plane, you would get that sometimes. So if you can keep the face of the game through the stores and that clean and nice and friendly, that's how you avoid getting that stereotype or breaking the stereotype. Really.
Yeah, exactly.
Well said. I like that. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's really good.
Star Wars has the upside of being kind of late to the party, which means every mistake has already been made by someone else, so we can just not make those mistakes.
We think.
We'll make new mistakes.
Exactly.
It's fine.
Yeah, no, exactly.
We'll figure something out. Screw up.
And Star Wars Unlimited is also one of those games which will introduce so many new players to this type of card game, to the trading card game. And to, like we saw at Malmö, so many people had never been to this level of tournament, however old they were, because it's Star Wars, because it's the IP that they love, and so they will come in and they will want to play this game, and there will be a quick learning curve for them to go, okay, if we want to play at this level, then we need to play properly, and we need to do this properly as well. So you will get that, but we need to be nice to help people get there.
Yeah.
So would you recommend people getting involved in the judge program if that is something that they are interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're doing a great job so far. Obviously, we don't know where it's going to be winding up, but I think what they have going is very good. And most importantly, at least the face of Cascade is very active in the community, and speaking to us. We could just ask him questions when we're confused, and that shows me that there's engagement and that they want to make this work. And and I think that's the most important thing, because then they can fix stuff that doesn't, right?
Definitely.
So,
how can people get involved if they're interested in being involved in the judge program? What is the best place for them to find that?
CascadeGames.com is where you can sign up for the actual system, and I don't actually remember how I got into the Discord, but I believe there should realistically be a link there. Yeah, on the bottom of the main page for Cascade.com's Nexus, which is where you'll go when you've logged in, there is a link to the Judge Program Discord.
Yes.
Go there.
There you go then. We'll put the link in the show notes, of course, but CascadeGames.com is an easy thing to remember and to stick into your phone right now as you're listening.
Indeed.
Unless you're in the car, which means focus on the road and do it when you stop.
For sure.
Because people listen to us while we're in the car, and we will want to focus on the road and not on...
well, if you're the driver. If you're a passenger, you're fine. Do whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Just don't distract the driver on what they're doing.
Tell the driver to get their phone up and no, don't do that.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Great. Yeah. Cool. Drive safe. That's the message that we get from today's episode. But I think we can wrap this up again. But thank you so much, Mattias, for taking us through that. That has been really, really informative and
very
taking us
insightful.
through there.
Nice to hear. I thought I was just mostly rambling.
Not at all. Like coming into that, like for some people who are judges, they'll probably say, yeah, I've been there. For the people who aren't judges, they've never been there. I'm hoping, and if you're anything like me, they'll be like, oh wow, I didn't know that. That is really interesting. And so you've given us a huge insight into what it was like to be a head judge, and well done for what you did at Malmö as well, because I'm pretty sure there were a lot of happy and satisfied people who played that tournament, so good job.
Thank you. And on that note, I also want to mention that the team I had behind me with Alex and Nicholas and Fredrik was just, without them I wouldn't have been able to do that, and they were absolutely amazing, both as crew and as friends, so I'm very glad to have met them during this, and to have ran a very solid event, all things considered, together with them.
For sure.
Great. Well, that's it for tonight. In the next week, we're going to be putting out a load more stuff on YouTube, which will be the Day 1 commentary games, which you mentioned, followed by the Day 2 games. So keep an eye out for that. If you haven't found us on YouTube, please subscribe to us, because we're going to be doing a lot more there. Hit like on wherever you are on the podcast here. Hit us up. Tell us, come and say hey, find our Discord. Come and get involved with us. If you want to support our Patreon, you are very welcome. We need to work on our levels of what we can actually, what we're giving out, etc. We still have playmats to go. You can support us by buying a playmat. And that's us. I've been Jason. We also have Viktor and Matt here. Thank you both so much for your time tonight and your really amazing conversation. So thank you for that. May the force be with you all. And good night.
Till next time.
Night.